just double check. Audio. I'm always paranoid about audio. I've been stung one too many times. Hello, hello. We're going to be talking about Log4j again, because we're going to actually go over the we're going to be going over the actual exploit this time, and some fun stuff at the end of it, because there's been an update, but sort of. So yeah, there's been an update to mitigate the vulnerability, but it's caused its own issues. It's fun times. That's even if you can hear me. I'm still waiting on audio to sort itself out here. Here we go. Mute myself. It is. Excellent. Sorry, bear with me. How is everyone today? Curious if anyone joins these who's actually in cybersecurity. There we go. Okay, audio is working. Cool. Sorry, just had to check that before did anything else. Okay, and then we'll get this up as well, live, and mirror the video. There we go. Okay, awesome. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Yeah, we're going to be going over Log4j again. So I'm going to go through a couple of things. I'm going to go through the actual full exploit lifecycle. So how you can actually get a shell, how you can get a remote connection using this exploit. Last time I did it, I just showed the proof of concept. I'm going to show the sort of full the process of how a typical attacker would exploit this. I would like to point out this will probably not work in most environments now, because everyone's watching for it for this particular makeup. Obviously, actual attackers are changing it, and rightly so. I wanted to wait until it was a point where, you know, anyone who was going to put fixes in against this will have put fixes in against it before I did a stream on it, basically. Because I didn't want to let everyone in the world know how to do this, even though it is a ridiculously easy exploit to do. Something I wanted to cover off first of all, though, is whenever I was talking about the exploit before, I realized I wasn't that clear about the what the LDAP was doing. I sort of waffled for a bit. The LDAP is just the protocol that you're using to initiate the connection. We'll sort of expand on it a bit more. Hopefully you can see this command here. Anyone on TikTok, if you go on Twitch, you'll be able to see the screen a lot better for anyone on there. So for anyone who doesn't know, if anyone didn't see the last one, this is a vulnerability in a Java logging function, and it's in absolutely everything, and it is very, very easy to exploit, which is why it's set so much on fire right now. It's somewhat terrifying. I showed the proof of concept last time and sort of went over why this is such a big deal, so check out that video if you're curious as to what's going on there. Outside of that, we're just going to get stuck in because I'm on my lunch break again, and I don't have a lot of time. So let's get cracking. First thing we need to do, so the way that the actual full exploit of this works, the LDAP connection itself that we use, that little proof of concept that you might have seen last time, isn't oh, who's that? Nigeria, hey, how are you? The proof of concept that we done, the LDAP connection to initiate a connection, it can't give us a shell. It can't give us a terminal like what we have here, where we can type commands and see stuff that's happening. The LDAP on its own can't do that. So what we can do is use a built-in Java function, this command that you are seeing here. This big long command. What this is doing is setting up an LDAP referral server. So what that's going to do, whenever we initiate our connection using LDAP, it's then going to call back to this, to our machine here using LDAP. It's going to talk to this LDAP referral server, which is then going to refer it to this. You can see this here, this slash exploit that we've got here. This is going to be a server that we are going to host, a web server that we're going to host, that's going to actually have the exploit, the Java code that we want to run, and that's ultimately what we want to do. Sorry, I've just realized my phone is on vibrate, and I'm sure that is not pleasant for anyone on TikTok. There you go. So yes, so the actual LDAP itself can't create a shell for us, so we need to send it, or we need a way to actually run a piece of code on the victim machine itself, and this LDAP referral server is sort of how we're doing it. So it'd probably be easier if I drew this out, but if you think about it, it's going to call out, we're going to initiate the connection to the attack server. It's then going to call back to the LDAP referral server, this command here that we're going to run. It's going to call back there. It's then going to point to wherever we have our malware stored, which is this here, which is what this IP address or this URL is going to be. This is going to be where we are running our exploit code, which I'll show you in a second. It's going to then call to there. That's then going to get ran on the victim server, and then that's going to call back to us again, which is going to initiate the connection. So there's a little bit of a back and forth that goes on with this. And this is actually good for defenders, so for the blue team, the good guys and girls, us effectively. This is good for us because it gives us plenty of points to try and spot something happening. You know, there's the connection going out, there's the connection going back, and then there's the NCAT itself, and there's the actual exploit, the payload running as well. You know, so there's lots of different areas where we could pick this up, which is great for us, but obviously you have to know what you're looking for. You have to be looking for it, which a lot of companies are not. So I'm going to kick this off by running this, because this is going to start a server that we're just going to sort of run in the background here. If I run that. What could not load? Why could that not load? Whoops, am I in the wrong directory? I am. Hold on. Rooms, what's it under? Solar. And whoop, I have not set up this box right, I think. Oh, I have not, that's why, derp. Apologies, I did not have my Java set up correctly. It's the joys of live demos. Let that run, that should fix it. Okay. So does anyone have any questions on Log4j in general while we're just waiting on that to run? Hey, don't forget to export this to YouTube. Yeah, last time I didn't. Last time I forgot to tick that little button in Twitch that says save save the recording. I didn't have that selected, so I actually had to I just redid another stream going through the same stuff and uploaded it. Swampin. Oh, I just realized who that is. Hey, I know that person. Yeah, it's streaming to Twitch and YouTube live at the same time now, so it's automatically on YouTube now. We don't need to worry about that. Okay, there we go. So hopefully you can see that. I know the font's a little bit yeah. I know the font's a little bit small on this one, but you can see now it's listening on a particular port. So that's what's going to get our LDAP connection back from the other server. So I can minimize that now because honestly we don't need to touch it. It's just there to sort of ping the connection from an LDAP into something that we can actually use, which is going to be an HTTP server, or an HTTP server, which is going to have our exploit. So the next thing that we need to do is actually have an exploit, and what we're using is this boyo here. Now my Java is not fantastic, so for anyone who says that you need to know coding to get into cybersecurity, you don't really. Like, I don't know Java that well, so you know, I don't know what static means. No idea. I can understand what a try and catch statement are from other programming languages that I know, but apart from that. So like knowing programming is definitely useful, but you do not need to know every single language, and it depends very much on what area of cybersecurity you're wanting to get into. But this is our exploit. This is the Java code that we're going to run on the victim server. Basically, this is the command here, this java.lang runtime.execute, and this is an nc-e bin bash and then an IP address and a port number. This is the actual part that is giving us a shell. So this is doing a netcat listener, or a netcat connection, sorry, and it's giving us a bash shell. So in Linux, this is going to be our command line terminal. That is all this is. That's all we're sending to this. Now, actual in a real world environment, this wouldn't work, because this type of command, every single antivirus, malware, SIM tool, IDS, IPS, every detection tool that blue teamers have in their toolkit will see this a mile away. They will just see this before you even send it. They'll see it. So this will not work in a live environment, again, which is why I'm happier to show this now that this has been out in the wild a bit. Even before Log4j, something like this would have been picked up on. Are you working on Log4j stuff? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. So this is all this Java is. So then we compile this into an actual program, which I have already done to try and avoid the live demo gods. But this is all the exploit is. So now we have that. What we need to do is create an HTTP server. So as I said, that other command that I run there, the other listener that's running, that's LDAP, and it's going to bounce the connection to our HTTP server. If this is getting confusing at any point, let me know. It would probably make more sense if I actually drew it out on in Notepad or something, or Paint. So if anyone's getting confused by where we're going here, let me know. We can draw it out. So right, so the next thing I need is a HTTP server. The HTTP server, you need to start it in the folder or the directory that you have the Java exploit running. In this case, I just put it into root, so it doesn't really matter much for me. I can just run here. Python has a really great thing where you can just do it's an inbuilt module for server or for web servers. http.server. And it's just like that. Python-m http.server, and it will spin up a server on port 8000. By default, you can specify the port as well if you wish. Now, you may remember here, this bin bash, this callback to this command here, it's on port 9999. So that's the port that we're actually going to get our shell back. That's where we want to listen. This is where we're going to get our hands on the box, as it were. So we're going to set up a listener. LNVB, same as last time, and we're listening. Okay, so now we've got all the points set up that we can bounce between. Again, we're going to send a connection. It's going to generate an error log, or a log on the victim server. That log is going to get interpreted by Log4j's function, which is vulnerable. It's going to run some code which is going to create an LDAP connection back to the LDAP server that we created a second ago. That LDAP referral server is then going to point it to the Python HTTP server that we have running, and it's going to direct it to the exploit, the Java exploit code. And because of the vulnerability in the logging function, it'll run. It will run that Java code, and that's going to create our shell. Does that make sense to everybody at home? And let me see, I will show you here. This is going to be our updated, I should have copied this over earlier. This is going to be our updated in there. So if anyone's seen the last stream, you'll notice this one is ever so slightly different. Before, this is the actual vulnerable function here, the JNDI. Then specifying we want it to be an LDAP connection, and we're passing in the IP address and port number. Before, we left it at that, and if you remember, we just got some gobbledygook back, and that was the proof of concept. That was the, it doesn't do anything, but we get a connection back that sort of proves that we could. This time, you're seeing we're doing a /exploit/. This is what's going to actually kick things off effectively, and run the Java in there. Can you hack phones, and how much are you charging? I am a white hat hacker, so no, I am not going to hack anyone's phone for you. Decline. So let us actually run this. So if I take this, copy it, we're just going to spin up our terminal here. And we'll just throw that down there. Right, hit enter on this. We should see a connection start to come through on this screen here on the left. And there we are. If I do who am I, you can see logged in as SOLR, which is the user account for the server. LS. You can see we've got the directories in there. That's it. That is how easy this exploit is. Did that make sense? Please tell me if it didn't. So again, we are it's my old phone, can't get into it, forgot the password, Face ID won't start. Matter. Okay, made sense. Good. Okay, so that was the exploit that I wanted to show. Hopefully you all enjoyed that. What I'm going to do now is possibly pickle your brains a bit more. So, I mean, the answer to the question of can you hack phones is yes. Surely you've played around with non-standard OS. Yes, I have, but I'm not going to hack anyone's phone for them for the purposes of getting information out of it. Hopefully that's cleared that up. So, right, we're going to go on a journey here. So Log4j, or Log4j, however you want to pronounce it. I think the most up-to-date version is 2.17. It is brand spanking new, relatively speaking. Now, anything pre 2.15, whenever I did my last video, so whenever I did my last video, anything pre 2.15 was vulnerable to this. This is what we call an RCE, remote code execution. They then brought out 2.15, which had fixed this, allegedly, but also came with a denial of service. You could basically put in an infinite loop, and it would then crash the server. So that was bad. Not quite as bad as a remote code execution, but still pretty bad. So they then brought out 2.16, which then fixed the DOS, right? Now, fast forward to today, and bear in mind, this is evolving all the time. Like, this has changed in the last couple of hours. So many people are looking at this thing. This is changing so quickly. So, over the weekend, they then realized that 2.15 was still vulnerable to remote code execution. So 2.15 was actually still vulnerable to this. So it got an upgraded CVS score. It was no longer just a DOS. You could still do the stuff you're doing here. They found a workaround. Then 2.16, it then turns out, also has a DOS. So 2.16 could be DOSed, and now 2.17 has came out, which allegedly fixes all of those. Something else will come out of this. This is evolving all the time, and so many people are looking at this. What I want to check is if the 2.15 workaround also works on older versions. Right? Does that make sense? So the reason I want to know this is because it narrows how much information the attacker needs to know about the server that they're targeting. If they just know that you're running Log4j, then they could just send the workaround version of the attack and not worry about it. Doesn't matter if you're on a lesser version because it would still work. Or if the older versions don't work with the workaround, then they would have to know a bit more information about the server or doing multiple attempts, which then gives the blue teamers more time to actually pick up on it. That's why I want to know. Hopefully that wasn't confusing as shit. Boss, is there any apps which can access all the data on a PPTP network or passwords of device stats? There probably are, I'm sure. No idea what they are, but there probably are. Kieran Mathis, hey there, hey. Kieran Mathis. That name rings a bell. Why does that name ring a bell? Do we know each other? That's a very interesting question to ask. Yeah, yeah. And I mean the workaround is ridiculous. So what they did to fix the vulnerability. So if I close out of this, and let's just do a good old 4444 netcat, and bring this back to okay. So what they did to work around this was they changed what LDAP could reference. So at the minute, you can run that. Oh, what did I do? What did I break? What did I break? Unmatched close brace in hold on, let's just copy and paste. So the LDAP before could just hit any IP address you put into there. The way they fixed it was they made it that it could only hit local addresses, so it had to be an internal based IP. Now I know obviously this is an internal based IP because this is based on this is in a network that's built for this. So I mean this would still work regardless. But excuse me. Oh, backslash. That's what I forgot. So, but we'll pretend that it isn't for the sake of this. So they made it that it had to be a local address. Now, there we go. Okay, so now there's the proof of concept. If any of you didn't see it before, you get this blurb of shit back because LDAP doesn't create a shell, as I said. That's why we had to do that reference server to sort of pivot it into a Java, a piece of Java code that we had to actually exploit it. But I'm just going to look up the workaround because I can't remember the syntax of it. So POC. There it is. I think that's it. So as I said, the it can't it can't go to any external IP addresses, which is obviously what they're firing it to. Typically, they're firing it to a domain that they have control of, or something else. But where the hell is? Oh, it's in the wrong article. But the way that they got around it was they add a hash and then just add the external IP on the end of it. So like you can see here, we've got HTTP and our server 800/hash exploit. Instead of putting hash exploit, you put hash and then put the external IP and the full attack path after it. And for whatever fucking reason that works. I don't know whether that's a Java thing or if it's an HTML thing or an LDAP thing. I honestly don't know. But it just seems to be, it seems like all they're doing is sort of like piping it. So they're saying, oh yeah, you are going to a public IP address, or sorry, a private IP address, but also go to this one, and that seems to check the box for it. where it just sort of goes, yeah, okay, no problem. Why can I not find this exploit code? Come on, I had it up. Let's go. I think it's that one, maybe. No, this one. Yeah, because the article was the Log4j, the severity of the CVSS score went up from a 3.7 to a 9 whenever they found this out. Again, it obviously depends on it depends on, you know, how likely it is for your system to be compromised, whether it's likely to be hacked. You know, that CVSS thing is some people are using CVSS as a way of being like, oh yeah, this is how severe it is, but it's not. That's not what CVSS is there for. It's just a sort of what's the term? Like an indicator of the type of vulnerability. So this is the workaround. You can see on the top there. So they're putting in a 127.0.0.1, so it's just localhost, which is always going to be there, and they then send it to the I don't know whether that /a is needed to be there. I'm just doing slash for now, and we'll see how this goes. Copy that. So yeah, we'll see. So I think Swampin is still here. I think he's more familiar with Java than me. So is that hash, the pound sign thing, is that a Java thing, or what's that all about? The /a is the exploit file. Yeah, I'm assuming so. But there's a couple of different ways that people are running this, so copying the code differently may cause shit to break. Hey Brains, found you on TikTok. Oh, that's good. Glad you could make it. Unmatched closing brace. I think that's this. This needs to be that way, I think. I believe that's what I did last time. See, it didn't take it. Java hash is a comment, right? Is it? I have no idea. My Java is not fantastic. So, interesting. Didn't pop. No. Did it not pop? It could have not popped for a couple of reasons. So let's do a little bit of shenanigans. Yeah, it's thinking about it. It's just not doing it. Nope, I'm wrong. I've been thinking of Bash for too long. Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine it would be a comment, because then that would ignore anything after that point, if you know what I mean. So let me see. So they're doing colon hash. That all looks about right. They have been using different ports. There was a mention in the article about being specific with the ports. So let's do that. Sorry. Oh. This one. No? Okay, awesome. I can sleep a little sounder. So that's nice. What's this? Unless it's a divider and LDAP. Yeah, it could well be. It could be an LDAP thing. I'm not too sure. Could be anything. So like CSV string and then run them separately. Yeah, it could well be. So that's nice that it appears at least now. There's about 40 different 44 million different ways of exploiting this. Different things are vulnerable in slightly different ways. So the only thing I can say with certainty here is that this particular version of Solar set up in this particular configuration is not vulnerable to the workaround that works on 2.15, but it is vulnerable to anything pre 2.15. So I mean, it's still vulnerable regardless. Um, yeah, interesting. Well, I mean, at least that makes life a bit easier if that's the case, because that means there's a bit more reconnaissance for the bad guys. Which is always a nice thing when they have to work for their shells. Awesome. Alright, so time are we 1:45. Any questions before I piss off and get lunch? Stay. No, nothing. Happy days. As always, I will do more of these if people want them. If there's anything in particular you want to go through, I was thinking of doing a sort of regular series going through one of the learning paths, either the offensive security or junior pen tester or something like that, and sort of go through those learning paths and like do maybe a room per stream or something and just talk through how all the shit's going on and sort of why it works. The stuff is really well explained. I would honestly just recommend you going through it. But you could go through it at the same time. And then if you had any questions, you could ask. If anyone was interested in that, let me know. Follow on the Twitch and YouTube and TikTok if you're there, and Twitter and all of the social medias. It's all the same name, so far away. Yeah. So thanks. I shall see you later.